My struggle to learn English.
My name is Mira. I am from a village. I want to tell you about how I learned English. I also want to tell you about my good teacher. You can read my story. You can learn English with me. It was a sunny summer day. I was on a train. Two women were on the train too. They were sitting across from me. They were speaking English. I did not know many English words. I was just starting to learn English. I spoke to the women in my basic English. They could understand me. I was happy. I told the women I want to learn English. The women said they were from England. They were going home from a work meeting. We talked for 10 minutes. My stop was next. I said goodbye. The women gave me their address and phone number. They invited me to visit England. After meeting them, I practiced English every day. I translated texts. I watched movies in English. After 6 months, my English was much better. But I still wanted to learn more. I decided to go to London to study English. When I arrive, I enroll in a school. My first lesson is on Monday. I meet my teacher and other students in the class. My teacher is a young lady, very nice and approachable. We introduce ourselves and say where we are from. Then the lesson begins. Our teacher asks us how we study English. She says she can teach us a very effective method to learn English, which is very simple. We don't have to study or read textbooks, but we need to use English a lot. This method is perfect for me because I don't like studying or textbooks. We discuss what is important when learning a new language. Our teacher emphasizes that languages are for communication. They help us express and understand ideas. Therefore, the best method is to use the language for communication. This is what we will do in our course. We will speak a lot. Many students try to memorize new words and study grammar rules without using English for speaking. While it's necessary to learn new words and grammar, our teacher wants to show us a simple and effective method for learning them. I like what she says. The lesson continues with us speaking about our hobbies and free time activities, either in pairs or with our teacher. We speak throughout the lesson, and I really enjoy it. This system of learning suits me well. How I learn words. I go to school again on Tuesday. One student asks a very interesting question about the best method to learn new words. Our teacher explains that reading is the best way to learn faster than people who don't read. She recommends reading for 30 minutes every day. She advises that the book or text should be interesting to you, whether it's a nice story or relevant information for your job or hobby. Avoid texts that don't interest you. It's also helpful if you know many words in the text, though encountering new words is inevitable. When you find a word you don't know, look it up in a dictionary and continue reading. You don't need to write down or try to remember the word. Just focus on understanding the text. When you see another new word, translate it and continue. This method is simple. Read and translate new words. Reading is also beneficial because it shows you how words are connected in sentences, helping you learn correct usage. This method of learning new words is very effective. Try it, and you'll see how fast you can learn new words. After discussing this, we continue with our lesson, talking about the situation in England and the best jobs for students. This is helpful for me because I want to find a job after school. I ask other students if they know where I can find a job, and they suggest going to a job center. The job center has many opportunities for students, which is good news for me. I'm happy to know where to find a job. After school, I visit the job center. I don't know what jobs I can do, so I ask the lady at the job center for advice. She tells me about good jobs for students, such as being a cleaner or a waiter in a cafe. I mention that I have no experience with these jobs, but she reassures me that my English is good enough for cafe work. The training is not difficult, and I can use English when speaking to customers. She tells me I can start my job on Thursday. This is great news for me. I'm happy to have a job where I can use English. Remember, if you want to learn new words effectively, read for 30 minutes every day. How I learn pronunciation. On Wednesday, I go to school again. There is one student in the class who is quieter than the others. He is from South Korea. When our teacher asks if we have any questions, this student says he has a big problem with pronunciation. He knows his pronunciation isn't very good, and it discourages him from speaking much. He reads and watches films in English, understanding them well, but he also wants to speak well. He asks if there is something he can do to improve his pronunciation. Our teacher explains that pronunciation problems often arise because students use their mouth muscles the same way they do in their native language, resulting in accented English. This is common, and usually, people understand what you're trying to say. As a student, it's expected that your pronunciation isn't perfect, but you can work on it and improve. She introduces a technique called shadowing, which is very simple. When shadowing, you copy the sounds you hear. Children learn their first language by copying their parents repeatedly until their pronunciation is perfect. You can learn English pronunciation the same way. Choose a video that is not too fast and is easy to understand, listen to it, and copy what you hear. Our teacher finds a good video on YouTube that demonstrates shadowing. We watch the video and then try shadowing for about 3 minutes. Our teacher also mentions that shadowing is useful when preparing for a presentation and wanting to have good pronunciation. Before the presentation, practice shadowing for about 10 minutes. This will significantly help improve your pronunciation during the presentation. This technique is new to me, and I'm eager to try it. When the lesson finishes, I go to the school reception and ask the lady if there are any sports activities at the school. I would like to do some sports in England. The lady at the reception says, "Yes, we have a table tennis team and a football team. The football team has training today at 5. I am very happy because sports are very important in my life. I go to the football team training and meet many players from different countries: Brazil, Japan, Russia, Spain, Argentina, and Italy. I enjoy the training and am very happy that my time in England is starting well. I have a great teacher and some new friends from my football team. Also, tomorrow I am starting my job." When you want to have good pronunciation, repeat after native speakers. How I practice speaking. On Thursday, I go to school again. We have a new student in our class. Her name is Monica, and she is from Italy. At the beginning of the lesson, my teacher asks Monica some questions. My teacher knows Monica because Monica visited her class 1 year ago. It was a class for beginners and lasted only 2 weeks during the summer holiday. When Monica speaks, her English is beautiful. Her pronunciation is very good, and she is very fluent. My teacher is very happy and tells Monica, "Your school in Italy must be very good." Monica says, "I don't go to any school. I learn English at home. I use techniques from you. I do a lot of reading, shadowing, and thinking aloud. I try to think more in English than in Italian. This is how I work on my English. The 2 weeks which I spent last summer in your class helped me a lot. You showed me the way. I know how to work on my English every day. This is why I wanted to join your class again. 1 year ago, I was a beginner, and now I can speak English. I want to learn from you again." My teacher is very happy to hear these words. She thanks Monica for her hard work. This is all very interesting for me. I already know about reading and the shadowing technique, but Monica also speaks about thinking aloud. I don't know what it is, so I ask our teacher, "What is thinking aloud?" Our teacher says it is a very effective technique. You have to have a strong motivation to learn English if you want to benefit from this technique. It is also good to know that for some people, this technique might seem a little crazy. But when you start to think aloud, your English can improve very quickly. I say, I have strong motivation. I don't care if the technique is crazy. If it helps, I want to learn it. Can you teach us this technique? Okay, says our teacher. It is actually very simple. You think in your native language all day, every day. It is normal. Now, you can start to think in English. When you start to think in English, you can think aloud. You simply say aloud what you think. That's all. I say, it is very simple. Why is it very effective? Our teacher says, maybe you can ask Monica. She uses this technique, and maybe she can tell you more about it. Then our teacher asks Monica if she is okay with speaking about her experience with thinking aloud. Monica agrees and says, when I started with this technique, it wasn't easy. I began with very simple sentences. For example, I can speak English. It is good that I can speak English. I want to be better. I need to practice every day. I don't know many words, but I can use these words well. I can say what I want with these words. I can do this. This is great. The sentences were really simple, but at the beginning, there was one problem. My thinking in Italian was long and complicated. I wasn't able to say in English exactly what I was saying in Italian. I needed to find a simpler form for English. Thinking in simple English was the hardest part, but after some time, it became normal for me to think in English. Then, something interesting happened. I met a man from Australia who was on holiday in Italy. I was still a beginner, but we started to speak English. I could see that I was able to speak with him without big problems. My sentences were simple and short, but I was able to speak. I didn't translate in my head from Italian to English. After meeting the man from Australia, I started to use thinking aloud more. This technique helped me a lot with my speaking. I still use it every day. It is really a very effective technique. Our teacher thanks Monica for sharing her experience with thinking aloud. I want to use this technique because I also want to be better at speaking. When you want to speak English fluently, think aloud. How I learn grammar. After school, I go to the cafe where my job training starts. I don't know what to expect. I have no experience and am not sure if I can do this job. When I arrive at the cafe, I am very surprised. It is a modern cafe that sells coffee, tea, chocolate cakes, and sandwiches. My boss is only 25 years old. She started working at the cafe more than 2 years ago. She has a lot of experience and knows everything perfectly. She shows me how to prepare coffee, wash the dishes, and deal with customers. It is all new to me, and I remember only about 20% of what she tells me. Then she lets me do the work and corrects me when I make a mistake. She is very friendly, and I learn quickly. After the first day at work, I am very tired, but I am happy to have a job. The next day is Friday, and I go to school again. One student asks an interesting question. Sometimes when I speak, I'm not sure if I speak correctly. I am not sure if I use correct grammar. Can you help me with what to do if I want to learn grammar? Our teacher says, "Thank you for your question." There are two groups of students. Some students study English because they want to be able to speak, and some study English because they want to pass an exam. For each group, the situation is different. First, I will speak about the students who need English for speaking. If this is you, you don't have to study grammar a lot. When you learn your native language, you also learn it without studying grammar. You can learn English grammar naturally by using the language. The best way to learn grammar naturally is by reading a lot. Books are written with good grammar, and when you read, you will learn grammar in the context of whole sentences. I also recommend shadowing. When you do shadowing, you practice correct grammar naturally. You don't have to try to remember anything, you only copy sentences with correct grammar. If you need English for speaking but also want to study grammar, you can visit Grammar in Levels. This website shows what grammar is important for different levels of English. You can find the most important grammar rules for speaking there. The second group of students are those who study English to pass an exam. If you are one of these students, I recommend studying specifically for this exam. Obtain versions of the exam from past years if possible and train with them. Of course, your exam will be a little different, but the structure is usually the same or very similar. From my point of view, past exam versions are good training materials. I recommend going to the exam only when your results in the training materials indicate that you can pass the exam successfully. Did I answer your question? Yes, thank you, says the student. This is good news for me. I don't like studying grammar. I learn English because I want to be able to speak. I don't need to pass any exams. I'm happy that I don't have to study grammar much. I like reading, and I am happy that I can learn grammar by reading books. After the lesson, I go to the website Grammar in Levels. It is a really nice website with grammar rules and examples for each level. They have 3 levels, 1,000, 2,000, and 3,000 words. In the afternoon, I go to work. It is my second day, and I can already do a lot of things by myself, but my boss helps me when I need it. I see that my work is not very difficult, and I can practice English when I speak to our customers. Moral: when you want to have good grammar, read a lot. How I test my English. It is Monday again, and I go to my school. Our teacher asks us what we did over the weekend. I say that I was at work on Saturday. I say that I can already do my work well and that I am happy when I can speak to our customers. When I speak, one of the girls in the class asks me, "What happened to your voice? You sound very different from what we heard last week. Your pronunciation is very good." I smile and say, "Thank you." I used shadowing on Saturday evening after work and all day Sunday. I try to speak like a native speaker. I know that it is not perfect, but I also see a big change in my pronunciation. Our teacher asks if other students tried to practice shadowing. 3 students say yes. One of them is a student from South Korea who also likes this technique. One student says that she tried the technique, but her mouth was in pain after 5 minutes of shadowing, so she stopped. She also says that she wasn't always able to repeat everything because the recording was very fast for her. Our teacher says, "Thank you for trying out this technique. If you do shadowing for the first time and your mouth is in pain after 5 minutes, you are doing it correctly. You need to train your muscles to this new way of speaking. It is like going to the gym for the first time. Your muscles can hurt if they are not trained. If the muscles in your mouth hurt, you can take a break after 5 minutes of shadowing and continue a bit later. With every 5 minutes of practice, your pronunciation improves." Shadowing also has other advantages. You practice the correct pronunciation in English, and you also practice other things, such as intonation, rhythm, and connecting words in whole sentences. I know that at the beginning, the recording can sometimes be very fast for you. If this happens, you can repeat only the first or the last word in the sentence. With practice, you'll be able to repeat more. I say, "That is true." On Saturday, when I started with shadowing, it was difficult for me, but by Sunday evening, it was easy to repeat what I heard. Then I have a question for our teacher. I tell her that I looked at grammarinlevels.com. The website is interesting, but I don't know what level is for me because I don't know how many words I know. Our teacher asks other students if they know how many words they know in English. It is interesting to see that nobody knows. We know that we are intermediate students, but we don't know how many words we know. Our teacher says, there is a website for people who study foreign languages. You can do a test there to know how many words you know. The test has only 2 steps, and it is really simple. The name of the website is testlanguages.com. You can do the test every month and see how much you improve during that month. If you want, you can now take your smartphones and go to that website and do the test. I am really interested in knowing how many words I know. I do the test immediately and find out that I know 2,100 words in English. Most of the students know between 2,000 and 2,500 words. Only Monica and the boy from South Korea know 2,500 words. Our teacher says, so you can see that when you go to grammarinlevels.com, you should already know grammar from level 3. You can start using grammar from level 3 because level 3 is for students who know between 2,000 and 3,000 words. Moral: test your progress every month. How I handle mistakes. On Tuesday, I go to school again. One student asks our teacher an interesting question. She says, "I want to practice speaking with people around me, but I don't want to make mistakes. I don't want to look stupid. Can you help me?" Our teacher says, making mistakes is a very interesting topic. There are a lot of opinions on this topic. I want to show you what I believe is best to do. I have a lot of experience with this because I also learn new languages. For example, now I am learning Spanish. When I speak Spanish, I don't care if I make mistakes or not. The reason why I don't care about mistakes is simple. When I learned my native language, I didn't care about making mistakes. Mistakes weren't important to me. My main goal when I use any language is to express my ideas. That's all. I know that when I read a lot, speak, and do shadowing, my Spanish will get better and better. I know this can seem very simple, but it is my opinion. This is what I learned after many years of teaching and learning languages. It works very well for me and many of my students. When I speak, I only concentrate on speaking. At the moment, I know 1,500 words in Spanish. This is the level of a 2-year-old child. 2-year-old children make a lot of mistakes when they speak, but they don't care about their mistakes. They continue using their native language, and by the time they are 3 years old, they make very few mistakes. By the time they are 4 years old, they usually speak very well. You can do the same. Now most of you know about 2,000 words, so it is absolutely okay to make mistakes from time to time. When you continue using English, there will be fewer and fewer mistakes in your speaking. It is not possible to go to a higher level if you don't make mistakes. When you practice English, it is okay not to be perfect. Perfection comes with practice. All people who start learning English start from the beginning, from level 0. Learning a language is like learning to play a musical instrument. It needs to be trained. When you start your training, it is not perfect at the beginning, and you make mistakes. It is normal. Take it as a necessary part of your learning process. If you don't go through this period of making mistakes, you can't get to higher levels. When you continue to use English, the mistakes will gradually go away. If you want to make fewer and fewer mistakes, do a lot of reading and shadowing. When you read, you can read aloud. It can also help you make fewer mistakes in real conversations. In real conversations, care only about exchanging ideas. Don't worry about making mistakes. When you speak, you practice changing your ideas into words. You don't learn grammar or vocabulary during speaking. You have other activities for that. Don't worry. Everybody who learns a foreign language makes mistakes sometimes. Even famous people, bosses of big companies, or politicians make mistakes. When you listen to these people on TV, you see that they don't care about mistakes. They care about what is important, and that is expressing their ideas. You can do the same. Does it make sense? The girl says, "Yes, thank you." Moral: if you don't want to make mistakes, do a lot of reading and shadowing. How I remember words. On Wednesday, I go to school again. At the beginning of the lesson, one student says, "I started to read more." I feel that it is good for me. I can see that my grammar is better, but I have a problem. When I read and I don't know a word, I look it up in the dictionary and then continue reading. Sometimes, when I see the same word again 10 minutes later, I don't remember the word and have to look it up again. Can you help me remember the words better? Our teacher says, that is an interesting question, and she gives this explanation. It is normal that you don't remember the new word immediately. Usually, you will have to look up the word 5 times before you remember it. There will also be words which you will have to see 10 or 15 times. These words are usually verbs. When we learn a new word, the word goes through phases. Only when you achieve the last phase do you remember the word very well. There are 5 of these phases. We can look at them now. The first phase is the moment when you see the word for the first time and you don't know it. You look it up in the dictionary. The second phase is the moment when you see the word for the second time. You know that you have seen this word before, but you still don't remember its meaning. You look it up in the dictionary again. The third phase is the moment when you see the word again and you have a feeling about what it could mean, but you are not sure. For example, you know that the word is some kind of object or animal or a verb. The fourth phase is the moment when you already know what the word means when you see it, but you are not able to remember the word when you want to say it. When this phase happens, the word is in your passive vocabulary. The fifth phase is the moment when you are able to use the word when you speak. Now you can see there are 5 phases altogether. Do you understand now why it is not possible to remember a new word when you see it for the first time? It is usually not possible to jump across all the phases with the first meeting of the word. You have to see or hear every word many times and let the word go through all the phases. You can be happy not only when you learn a new word perfectly but also when you progress from one phase to the next. When it happens, you are closer to the final goal, which is to use the word without problems in everyday communication. It is interesting to me. I didn't know about these phases, but it is all logical. I also have this experience when I look up a new word in the dictionary, but 2 minutes later, I don't know what the word means and I have to look it up again. I feel stupid when I don't remember the word. Now I know that it is okay not to remember the word forever when I see it for the first time. I need more meetings with the word before I can use it well. After school, I go to my football training. Our coach tells us that there is a match on Saturday. The school team will play against another school team from Cambridge. Our coach tells me to come and play for the school team. I am very, very happy and I am looking forward to the Saturday match. Moral: when you want to remember a new word, you need to see or hear the word about 10 times.